A new year bringing a new focus on the congressional race in New York's 21st. We will hear from a political expert on the impact this race could have.
Paving the way or paying the price. New York touts record road repairs, but a trucking company says new thruway fees are reaching a breaking point.
Hello and welcome to Empire State Weekly. I'm John Gray.
And I'm Jamie DeLine. All eyes will be on New York in 2026 as there will be major elections that could help determine the balance of power at the national level.
In the 21st Congressional District, Congresswoman Elise Stefanik saying she will not be seeking re-election after also backing out of the bid for governor.
So far, two Republican candidates have announced that they're running for her seat. Assemblyman and former Marine Robert Smullen has entered the race, as well as Sticker Mule CEO Anthony Constantino. Affordability is a big issue the candidates say needs to be addressed.
We spent far too much money on things that we didn't need, both at the state and at the federal level, and that's got to come to an end. The taxes, the spending, the waste, the fraud, the abuse. That's a very critical issue for everybody here in upstate New York.
Democrats are talking about affordability. We do need to make life better and more affordable. I want to put more money into people's pockets. We have to create jobs, get people coming to New York, creating businesses, creating jobs, putting more money into people's pockets.
Now, several Democrats are vying for the 21st congressional seat as well. In no particular order, we've got dairy farmer Blake Gendabine, former White House trade official Dylan Hewitt, Lake Placid business owner Stuart Amorello, and Malin Haller, the running for Democratic Socialist Party. Petitioning period for these candidates seeking a party line on the ballot that will begin in late February. Joining us now to give additional insight on the race for the 21st Congressional District, as well as some other big things. We'll talk about the governor as well and what's happening there. Morgan Hook, partner at Blue Jacket Strategies. And usually you're wearing a blue jacket, which makes perfect sense. Morgan, thanks for coming in here on New Year's week, as we say. Let's start with the Stefanik seat. Boy, it seems like everybody's running for that.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's an open seat, and people are going to be interested, and they're going to throw their names in the ring. And we saw this a little bit with the special election, or what we thought was going to be a special election early in 2025. All sorts of Republicans came out of the woodwork to try and fill that seat. Congressional seats don't become available very often. And in a typical year, this is a very comfortable Republican seat. So the person who ends up winning the nomination is probably going to win the race, even though it looks like 2026 will not be a good year for Republicans. You would still think that this is a seat that Republicans can retain. And then that person, just like Elise Stefanik could have, if she had wanted to, you can have that seat basically for the rest of your life. So it's a good, cushy, nice seat to have in Congress. And so I think you're going to see a lot of people coming out trying to run for it.
And obviously the election isn't until November, so we have plenty of time. But do you think more candidates are going to announce that they're running between now and February when they have the petitioning period?
I think you're going to see a lot of people throwing out those trial balloons, right? Like they're considering, they'll go do the interview, they'll start putting petitions in the field, because there are a whole bunch of steps that are involved before you actually can jump into a race. They'll start to fundraise. I do think we're going to end up seeing a lot. I don't think that there's any one big personality on either side, either on the Democratic side or the Republican side, who is sort of the obvious next person to take this seat. So you're going to see a lot of members of the assembly and senators, the sign guy in Amsterdam probably. They're all going to get involved in this and see how far they can go with it. I mean, we've seen this actually with a lot of races around the country, a lot of these battleground races where you've got half a dozen Democrats running in primaries against who they think are vulnerable Republicans. And I expect to see the same thing here.
Do you think it's possible that the DNC will see this as a possibly a gettable seat, and we'll see a lot of national attention and a lot of national money start pouring into New York come summer and fall? Once it's set, we sort out who the candidates are going to be on both sides. Might this be a race that they say, you know what, let's put some money there?
Yes, maybe. I think that it is, like I just said, I think it is unlikely that a Democrat wins this seat, even in what I expect will be a bad year down ballot for Republicans across the country. That being said, again, this seat should be safe for Republicans. But what I might do, depending on how much money they bring in, is if you boost up a candidate in a seat like this, you force the other side to defend it, right? Happens again on both sides of the aisle. If there is a district that should be like a +20, but suddenly the polling is like +10 or +5, and you throw some money at that, it forces them to protect it. I ran a race, or I was part of a race a few years ago in the New York State Senate, where the Republican had won it 2 years earlier by 35 points. And we ended up losing, but we only lost by 7. And Republicans ended up having to spend $1 million in that state Senate race. That was here in the Capital District. And that was money that they could not spend on other races. And they ended up losing the Senate that year. So, you know, what is a victory? If you pull resources from your opponents and they aren't able to defend or win seats around the rest of the country or the rest of the state, that is a strategic decision that you can make, and I could definitely see that happening in the 21st district.
It seems like affordability seems to be the topic that everyone's talking about. Do you think there's going to be any other issues that these candidates are going to try to promote?
I think again, it's sort of, who are you talking to? Are you talking to your base, or are you talking to the general electorate and sort of swing voters? I think on the base side of it, Republicans are absolutely going to be talking about their red meat issues. They're going to be talking about immigration. They're going to be talking about whatever they talk about, transport. I don't know. On Democratic side, you're going to be seeing similar things. They're going to be talking about more environmental issues, for example. But even in those primaries, the cost of living issue has become the dominant issue across all of it. I mean, we saw that in New York City with the mayoral election this last year. I think you're going to, one of the things I thought of when you asked the question was like energy prices. But energy prices are a big topic of conversation right now in the context of how unaffordable they are. So we can say energy prices is another issue, and I do think it will be a big issue in this year's elections, but it's all in the context of how expensive it is and how we have to get those costs down. I think both parties are going to be talking about that.
We only got about a minute or so left. We have to talk a little bit about the governor. I'm guessing you're not at all shocked that Lee Stefanik jumped out of the race as quickly as she jumped in the race.
As we've talked about on this show and many other places, I never thought Elise Stefanik had a chance to be the governor. I think as soon as she had resistance and had a primary opponent, she just said, I don't want any of this. I have always believed that the only reason she got in that race was so she didn't have to run for Congress. So none of this surprises me. I do think, that being said, that I think Kathy Hochul is in a stronger position than I think people tend to give her credit for. They look at the last election and they say, oh, well, she only won by, 6 points. I think it's going to be a good year for Democrats. I think Kathy Hochul's overall numbers statewide are pretty strong for an incumbent in a statewide position and for a governor, if you look at the last, say, 15 years. Mm-hmm. So I fully expect that she'll probably win the election come this November.
And that we'll leave it there. But thank you for coming in. Thank you for all the predictions, by the way, of 2025. I was half joking with Morgan off the air. I wondered if perhaps Stefanik's campaign was watching one of our shows and said, yeah, they might be making a point here. But what do you think's next for her? Any idea?
I think she's got a book coming out. She'll go on her book tour. And then I still believe that she'll get that UN job that she wanted at the beginning of 2025. The Trump administration, Trump will appoint her. She'll move to Manhattan like she wanted to do at the beginning of 2025. So in the end, she's going to get what she wanted.
Well, so maybe everybody wins.
There you go.
All right. Thank you, Morgan, for coming in. We do
so much.
appreciate it. Happy New Year. State continuing to invest in infrastructure in the billions here, but as roads and bridges are getting fixed up, some are facing economic frustration with the state thruway and tolls. We're going to hear from a trucking company CEO, his concern heading into 2026.
If you have a comment or story idea, let us know. You can email us at news@news10.com. You can also reach out on X, formerly known as Twitter, at WTEN.
Welcome back to Empire State Weekly. Governor Hochul touting a record-breaking year for New York's roads, but not everybody is celebrating the progress.
The state poured over $3.6 billion into infrastructure this past year. That investment fixed more than 4,000 lane miles and nearly 3,700 bridges across the state. It's all a part of the massive 5-year plan to modernize how New Yorkers get around.
But as the Thruway Authority prepares a new $2.8 billion plan for 2026, the costs are starting to bite a bit. We are hearing reports now from some drivers about tolling errors and double billing. Meanwhile, leaders in the trucking industry say new surcharges are hitting small businesses hard. They argue that these extra fees are making it a little bit tougher to operate in an already expensive economy. Joining us now to give additional insight on the impact of New York's infrastructure changes, some of the toll things that are happening in businesses. We got Joe Fitzpatrick. He's Lightning Express, president of Lightning Express. Hudson Valley-based trucking company. You recently wrote an op-ed on this very topic, which I got a chance to read, Joe. For those who did not see it, first explain what's your business? You're a trucking business. How many trucks and what is it you move around?
Okay, yeah, we're a local trucking company. We have about 14 vehicles between tractor trailers, box trucks, cargo vans. We move anything from medical supplies to light fixtures. We service the tri-state area and stuff like that. I started out with one truck out of the basement of my house, grown steadily, been in business just over 25 years. We just added warehousing about 5-6 years ago. So it's, been an uphill battle, shall we say.
So the op-ed, you're talking about tolls. What's happening with tolls in 2026 or whenever this happened or when it's going to happen? Explain what your concern is.
All right, let me start by informing the public what's really going on behind the scenes. The Thruway Authority did a backdoor toll hike, and what they are doing is adding a surcharge to my third-party toll management company. This was done without any public notice, transparency, or stakeholder input. And I really count on this third-party management company to help us with back office. They take care of the tolls, they collect it. If we have to dispute any, we notify Best Pass or Fleetworthy now, and they handle all that. And now the Thruway Authority is adding a surcharge to it, which means it's going to cost them money, which then in return costs me money. And owning a business in New York State is not easy. So especially a trucking company, we've been in a freight recession for the past 3 years. So just another, burden we got to absorb somehow, or pass it on to our customers, and it affects everyone.
Joe, most people, when they've got an easy pass on their car, their SUV, whatever, they get an email statement. I've got one saying, oh, you traveled this month, and $27 is going on your credit card. We're just letting you know. And you go, okay, whatever. You don't even look at it again. That's nothing like what you're dealing with in terms of, give me an idea, with all those trucks, how much volume are we talking about toll-wise financially? Is it hitting you like per month or per year that you're paying in tolls?
We spend about $7,000 a month in tolls. And I'll never forget, I was talking to my one friend. He owns a trucking company in Houston, Texas. And when I told him how much I spend in tolls, he's like, Joe, you got to get rid of that. I'm like, how do I get rid of it? You can't. You cross over any bridge or go down any highway, you're getting hit. And that's just another added burden. And again, we try to pass on so much, we can't keep absorbing it. So we have to pass it on to the public. And again, that's the high cost of living in New York.
Yeah, I was talking to a diner owner during COVID and when egg prices were crazy. And he was explaining to me, this is off camera. He said, people don't understand. If you are used to paying $6.99 for a couple eggs, 2 slices of bacon toast, I can't charge $9. He said, every time I raise something $1, I could, a month later, 2 months later, track how much business I lost. He'll look through the computer and say, you know what? I sold, 300 less of that because I raised the price $1. Do you have the same issue where they're putting a toll on the third-party vendor who you hire? They put it to you. If you put it on the people who hire you, I'm guessing it could hurt your business?
Oh, without a doubt. And I'm glad you brought up the part about COVID, because during COVID, we were deemed essential, right? And it seems that these big public agencies have forgotten about it, and they look at us as a rolling piggy bank. But again, with ever rising costs of health insurance, business insurance, these frivolous lawsuits that we have to deal with, it just keeps piling on. And that's why you're seeing so many businesses go under. How much can you do? I mean, workers' comp insurance, it's just insane. And now tolls just keep going. And they just had a toll hike, I think in 2024 or 2020, and another one set for 2027. So when does this madness stop? And it's almost like monkey see, monkey do with, if the Thruway Authority raises, then next thing you know, the MTA says, "Oh, that sounds like a great idea," or the Port Authority says, "Hey, we got to raise it too." And companies from other states don't realize what we have to go through here in New York. Like when they ask for a quote for something going out to Jamaica, New York, and we give them, they're like, "Why so high?" I'm like, "Well, it's going to cost me about $200 and some odd in tolls." They're like, "No way." I'm like, "Yeah, look it up. It's insane."
Well, what recourse do you have at all, Joe? I mean, you're not a big lobbying group. You're not, I mean, I don't know if you can sit down with a state senator or assembly member. Do they have your ear? Do they have your back? Or is this a case where you have one party kind of running the whole state, and if this is what they want to do, this is what they're going to do?
Well, I'm also the chairman of the Trucking Association of New York, and we have our Drive Our Voice on Albany, and we go there and we tell them, to the assemblymen and the senators, and they seem to listen, but nothing seems to get done. And this is something that can be avoided right away. The governor keeps mentioning about affordability as our main issue in New York. Well, this toll, backdoor toll, whatever you want to call it, can all be done by one simple phone call from either the Thruway executive saying he's not going to go forward, or the governor saying, "You know what, stop this madness." People in this state are hurting. And another thing I love to bring up is one of my famous sayings, and I've said it to Senator James Skofish when I met with him. He came to my office when I was in Modena, New York. I met with Congressman John Faso when he was in office. And I said, "When was the last time you ever heard someone say, 'I can't wait to retire and move to New York'? It's usually, 'I can't wait to retire and get the heck out of this state.' It's out of control, the cost of living here."
All right, Joe Fitzpatrick, Lightning Express. We feel bad for your dilemma. You're dealing with it, and we wish you well as you move forward with these new fees.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you for coming on the show.
Have a great day.
You too. 2026 could be a big year for New York City as we got a new mayor, Zohran Mamdani, just sworn in this week. When we come back, reporter Henry Rossoff. He's down in the city. He'll break down the message that the new mayor is sharing with everybody. Welcome back. This week, the new mayor of New York City, Zohran Mamdani, sworn in, and he gave his first address as mayor.
Here's reporter Henry Rossoff with Pix 11 down in New York City on the message Mamdani has for city dwellers and for the rest of the state.
I will faithfully discharge the duties
of the office of the mayor of the city of New York.
Of the office of the mayor of the city of New York.
Sworn in by Vermont Senator and fellow Democratic Socialist Bernie Sanders on the steps of City Hall, Zohran Mamdani, the rapper turned Queens Assemblyman, is now mayor of New York City. He's the first Muslim mayor, an immigrant mayor, and at 34 years old, the youngest mayor in generations.
Where else could a Muslim kid like me grow up eating bagels and lox every Sunday?
For a man who barnstormed into office on the back of big promises like free buses, universal childcare, and rent freezes, Mamdani, a generationally talented orator, did not plead for patience with those pledges.
The only expectation I seek to reset is that of small expectations. Beginning today, we will govern expansively and audaciously.
Then he explicitly doubled down.
We will deliver universal child care for the many by taxing the wealthiest few. We will freeze the rent. We will make those buses fast and free.
Also sworn in during the ceremony was new comptroller Mark Levine and public advocate Jumaane Williams, who was moved to tears reflecting on what it would be like to pass a message to his younger self.
You were enough. You were always enough.
More broadly speaking, the inauguration was just as much about new leadership as it was about sending a message that Democratic socialist leadership might be the best hope for Democrats to reach working class people struggling to get by and who've been turning to President Trump and Republicans in recent years.
I was elected as a Democratic socialist, and I will govern as a Democratic socialist.
Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, often floated as a potential Democratic presidential nominee in 2028, echoed that broader national implication of Mayor Mamdani.
We have chosen this path because we know that it's the right thing to do, it's the smart thing to do, and that if we can make it here, we can make it anywhere.
And Mayor Mamdani getting right to work, particularly on affordability and housing. He went over to Brooklyn immediately following the inauguration and is announcing 3 executive orders to speed up the building of housing and to crack down on bad landlords. From City Hall, Henry Rossoff, Pix 11 News.
Stick around. Back with a look at the week ahead in just a bit.
If you have a comment or story idea, let us know. You can email us at news@news10.com. You can also reach out on X at WTEN.
Finally, on Empire State Weekly, with the start of this new year, also comes the start of the budget process.
The governor will lay out her political priorities in the State of the State later this month. After, she'll announce her executive budget as a plan to pay for those priorities.
Now, next week, we're going to look to hear from a budget expert on the big items that the state's going to be spending money on this year. For now, from all of us here at Empire State Weekly, I'm John Gray in Albany.
And I'm Jamie DeLine. We'll see you next week.
Don't forget, you can catch this show, Empire State Weekly, all over New York State. Here's the full schedule of the show on 10 TV stations across the great state of New York.